I worked as a night custodian at an old high school for 2 years. The worst part of the job was always the auditorium. It was massive, with 3 levels of seating, a big stage, and long, heavy curtains that hung from the ceiling. During the day, it looked normal. But at night, when the building was empty, it felt like stepping into a completely different place. Even with the lights on, there were shadows in every corner that seemed darker than they should be. Sound carried strangely in there. If you dropped a broom, the echo would stretch and bounce, making it hard to tell exactly where the sound came from. Most nights I saved the auditorium for last because I hated going in there. There was just something about it that always made my skin crawl. Near the end of winter one year, I had to clean it earlier than usual because there was going to be a play the next morning. I arrived around midnight, dragging my cart behind me. The side door creaked loudly as I opened it, and when it slammed shut behind me, the echo traveled across the empty room. I started by sweeping the aisles between the seats. The chairs were old, metal folding seats bolted to the floor in some rows, loose in others. As I pushed the broom, I listened to the scraping sound echo off the walls and ceiling. After a few minutes, I thought I heard something else. It was faint at first, like a soft rustling from the stage. I froze, thinking maybe a prop had fallen over. But when I looked, the stage was empty. I shook my head and told myself it was nothing. I continued sweeping. A few minutes later, I heard it again. This time it was more distinct, the sound of slow footsteps across the stage. I stopped sweeping and looked toward the stage. I could see the stacked props in the corners. Nothing moved, but the sound was real. My breathing became shallow. I slowly climbed the steps onto the stage, shining my flashlight behind the curtains. There were ropes, pulleys, old chairs, and painted scenery stacked against the walls. Everything was covered in dust, and the beam of my light made it dance like it was moving. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was nearby. I backed off the stage, telling myself it was just the building settling, maybe a mouse in the rafters. But the feeling didn't go away. I continued sweeping down the aisles, trying to finish as fast as possible. My mind kept going back to the stage. The sound of those slow footsteps repeated in my head, even though I couldn't hear them anymore. I finished sweeping the lower level and started mopping. As I pushed the mop through the rows, I thought I saw a shadow move across the second tier of seats. I moved my flashlight toward the seats, but nothing was there. I tried to tell myself it was a trick of the light. I kept my back to the wall as I moved, feeling as if someone were behind me. I had nearly finished mopping the main floor when I heard it again. A whisper. I couldn't make out words, but it was low and it was coming from the balcony seats above me. My heart was now hammering, my flashlight beam trembling in my hands. I wanted to run, but I didn't. I had to finish the job. I told myself it was someone outside or maybe a janitor who had forgotten something, but I knew I was alone. I kept mopping slowly, my ears straining. The whispering continued, almost like it was moving closer. I tried calling out, but I was so nervous that my voice sounded weak. There was no answer, only the echo of my voice. I finished mopping the main floor and started cleaning the stage itself. The steps up felt endless, and every time I moved my flashlight, I thought I saw something just at the edge of the beam. Sometimes it was a flicker of a shadow. Sometimes it was just my imagination. When I reached the stage, I looked over the edge at the main floor. The seats stretched back into darkness. I shined the flashlight into the balcony, and for a moment I thought I saw a figure sitting there. Just a silhouette. But when I blinked, it was gone. I told myself it was a chair or a coat, but the feeling didn't leave me. I started dusting and moving props, trying to focus on something physical. The whispering came again, much clearer this time. It sounded like someone speaking my name almost directly behind me. I spun around so fast that the flashlight slipped in my hands. The stage was empty. Nothing. The props were still stacked in the same place, and the curtains didn't move, but I knew I hadn't imagined the voice. I backed away slowly with my heart racing and moved toward the side door. I stopped at the edge of the stage and listened. I could hear soft footsteps on the upper levels moving slowly across the balcony. I told myself it was impossible. The auditorium was locked. No one else should have been there. The footsteps continued, stopping and starting as if someone were pacing and watching me. I finally ran to the door, grabbed the handle and pulled it open. The cold night air hit me like a wall and I felt relief, but I could still hear the faint echo of footsteps above, fading away slowly. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely lock the door behind me. I leaned against it, catching my breath, feeling the sweat running down my forehead. I didn't go back inside that night. The next morning I tried to tell another custodian about what happened, and he laughed at me saying, "It's an old building, probably just settles or something." But I wasn't convinced. That whispering voice calling my name so softly and deliberately, and the footsteps pacing above me, I felt them in the air around me. Weeks later, I learned that years ago a drama teacher had died suddenly in that auditorium during rehearsal. Heart attack, right on stage in front of students. People said sometimes you could still hear him walking the stage at night or hear whispers in the seats. I tried to convince myself it was just a story, that the sounds were normal for an old building. But the way that voice whispered my name and the footsteps echoed, I could never forget it. Maybe I was going crazy. I don't know. After that night, I refused to clean the auditorium. I quit that job not long after, but sometimes, even when other people were in the building, I would feel the same cold pressure in the auditorium, and that same feeling of being watched. I know what I experienced was real, at least real to me. I've never had any kind of schizophrenic episodes or anything like that, so this whole thing still baffles me to this day.